So if that's what spiritual abuse is, what does a real spiritual teacher look like? What does actually real spiritual wisdom and authenticity look like? And one of the things I can tell you is, a big thing for me is like teachers that do not have a fixation on money. And I know this is like a difficult one, because you can say, look, everyone's got to make a living, you know, what's wrong with, you know, learning this and teaching this and making a livelihood? But there's a big difference between making a living and getting rich. Okay, there just is, no matter how you want to look at it. And when someone gets rich off spiritual wisdom, they're getting rich off something that's kind of almost about the opposite of getting rich. So let me give you an example of someone that I would consider to be a spiritual clown, which would be Eckhart Tolle. Now, he's not a spiritual clown in the sense of he's a bozo the clown. He's more like one of those French kind of like clowns that take clowning very seriously, and they're kind of like, it's an art form. It's not just clowning, it's clowning. They went to a clown school. They worked in Cirque du Soleil. I mean, they're a sophisticated clown, but they're still a clown. Because to me, if you're a spiritual teacher, and don't get me wrong, again, his book is very good. The Power of Now, I read it, it affected me, I liked it, etc., etc. It's got good content in it. But in terms of, if you're a spiritual teacher and you're worth 70 million, you have 70 million in the bank in a world racked with poverty, hardship, sorry, you're a clown. You're not a spiritual teacher. I don't care. If you're someone that has a seminar, it costs $5,000, $2,000 to attend, but you can sit up on the foot of the master for an extra $2,000, or for $500 you can have lunch with Eckhart Tolle, and you actually think you're that important. You, as a spiritual teacher, you think you're worth $500 for an hour to sit and have lunch with you and make small talk? Like, sorry. If you think of Sakyamuni Buddha, Ibn Arabi, St. Francis of Assisi, great spiritual, the best spiritual masters, all of those three renounced their wealth. They left princes, they left kingdoms, they were princes, they were esteemed people in their society, and they renounced it all. And we're not talking about renouncing your wealth and living in a council flat and getting social welfare from the government. We're talking about 500 years ago, when you renounced your principality, your kingdom, and you went into the jungle on barefoot. I mean, that's real poverty, and you're living off begging. Like, you understand that what's involved in that renunciation of wealth? Like, it's real hardship, real austerity, real asceticism. And so you're telling me Eckhart Tolle knows something more about money and wealth and its corrupting influence than Ibn Arabi, Sakyamuni Buddha, and St. Francis of Assisi, and many, many other spiritual and mystical masters over the ages? Excuse me. I don't think so. That's just bullshit. So to me, if you want to really get to the heart of a great spiritual teacher, they are not interested in becoming rich, or they're not interested in being rich, however they justify it. They're humble. They may charge. I'm not saying this is someone who's necessarily barefoot in the jungle, but you can feel there isn't an emphasis on the money part of things. They do a lot of volunteer stuff. They put most of their teachings out for free, and there just isn't the focus on it. And they do exist out there. There are teachers like that exist out there. So don't buy the whole thing of the law of abundance and, you know, money's not a bad thing and there's nothing wrong with making a lot of money. And, you know, Eckhart Tolle's so above money, whether he has it or whether he doesn't. He's just kind of on this cloud, and rejecting money is just as bad as accepting money. But he just happens to have a bank balance of 70 million. It's like, come on. This is spiritual capitalism. So if you're looking for a real spiritual teacher, real spiritual teachings, most of the time they're free. And if there is a cost involved, it's minimal. So that's one thing to kind of look out for. Another thing to be aware of is that if you're in a spiritual group and there's a feeling that you're really welcomed, like they're really happy to have you as part of their meditation group, part of their spiritual group, but if you leave, that's okay too. Like, so you're special in the sense of they're happy for you to be there, but they're also happy for you to go too. Like, they don't need you in a nice way and not in a bad way. So there's a sense of, there's openness, there's an interest in you, but it's not overt, or it's not in this kind of weird way where it's like we need you and we're important, and if you leave then it's going to be really bad, or if you leave you're going off the path. I mean, you read a lot of stuff about Scientology, when people leave it's like they've kind of gone into the hell realm kind of thing, and there's a lot of religious and spiritual movements that have that feeling, and that's what I was talking about earlier with the us and them kind of thing. But a real spiritual group will be happy to have you there and happy for you to go, because what they're doing is really respecting your autonomy. They're expecting that you've got to work this out yourself. Another thing that a real spiritual teaching will have is the humility to acknowledge that there is nothing new about what they're teaching. And I said this before, which is the opposite of there is something special about what I'm teaching. When you have a spiritual teacher that is pretty humble about the fact that they're not the source of this knowledge, that this knowledge they're communicating is not really from them, and there's an emphasis on the dissolving of the ego, not about the building of it, then that is a good sign. And it's real humility. It's not this kind of false, pretentious humility. It's humility that comes from, this isn't mine. This isn't really my wisdom. I'm teaching you as far as I can go, but at the end of the day, this is just, you can get this anywhere. I don't own this. And if you don't own it, then you can't sell it. And that's the thing in the capitalist model we live in. Everyone's trying to tweak things in a way where you can commodify and monetize things, because if what you say is this wisdom is not mine, I don't own it, I'm just passing it on, it's there in a lot of traditions, you can learn it this way, that way, I've just found this way to do it. There's nothing special about that. You can't sell that. And that's the issue. Spirituality should not be for sale. And that's one of the biggest issues that I see in spiritual con men, spiritual cowboys, spiritual clowns. Somewhere in it, they're all selling something. And often it's about making money. And often it's about them and what they have and who they are. And real spiritual wisdom is about the dissolving of the ego, about acts of charity, love, kindness in the way that person behaves. But ultimately it's about understanding that your own spiritual authority, you can be taught methods, you can be taught systems, you can develop friendships and camaraderie, but you have to find it yourself. If anyone's claiming they can give it to you, that's just the primary red flag. All people can do is support you to arrive and to move into certain states that help you get closer to that. Real spiritual wisdom is not for sale, period. A great spiritual teacher told me that becoming enlightened, you don't need to be special. If anything, it's the opposite. It's all about becoming less special. And just that principle of that feeling you get from a teacher, that humility, that awareness that it's not about them, it's not even about you, it's about something bigger, that's what you want to look out for. But what you want to look out for more than anything is, what is it in me? And I'm not saying this in a blame way, but like, what do I need to understand about myself so I'm not susceptible to being conned and tricked and exploited? And if you really work on that aspect, healing your childhood trauma, resolving your issues with your father or your mother, feeling at ease with yourself, independent of the validation you get externally, they're the things that will make you most unsusceptible to spiritual grifters, spiritual predators, spiritual abusers. So look, I know this has been a long video. Thank you for sticking it out. I really hope this has helped. This has informed you. As I said, I've enjoyed making this video, doing all the kind of preparation for it. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you've got any comments about your own experience of spiritual abuse or anything along those lines, please put it in the comments below. Thank you very much for coming, and take care of yourself. Bye-bye.